Hi, my name is Trevor, and I am giving my persuasive speech today. This is my lovely audience, my dad, mom, sister, and Ethan. Let's get it started. So, when you think of the world's worst violators of imprisoning their own, you may think of China, Russia, or Cuba. What we fail to realize is that our land of the free, the great United States of America, surpasses all other countries in the world in locking up their own people. 2.3 million people to be exact. Just think about that. According to Prison Policy Initiative and the data, we lock up 655 out of 100,000 people versus Russia's 409 per 100,000. If we were to look at each state of the US as its own country, 23 states would have higher incarceration rates than any other nation in the world per capita. The state with the lowest incarceration rate per capita is Massachusetts, and only 9 countries in the world are ahead, each of which have murder rates double to that of the US. What's even more shocking is almost a quarter of those 2.3 million incarcerated here have never been convicted of an actual crime. Mass incarceration in our country is a huge issue, affecting millions directly and costing both families and our country in countless ways. It has been proven ineffective in reducing crimes, and the negatives drastically outweigh the benefits. It needs to be reformed sooner rather than later. We as a society are continuing to feed a machine that churns prisoners in and out without addressing how to actually lower crime and make our families, communities, and society safer as a whole. This is something that affects every person, both directly and indirectly. We need to change the current way the system works. By addressing individual issues that contribute to mass incarceration, we can make our justice system better one step at a time. The vital areas I will focus on are requirements of cash bail, mandatory harsh sentencing, and the culture of plea deals, which leads to prosecutors' powers going unchecked and removing power from jurors. This creates an atmosphere for wrongful convictions. Continuing down the current path is not sustainable, and we will continue to see families broken, innocents imprisoned, criminals going free, and the justice system draining tax dollars from budgets. Looking at the amount of prisoners at each level of government, it becomes clear that the biggest issues are at the state and local government levels. Looking at our own state, we can see that 64,000 Michiganders are currently imprisoned, or 641 per 100,000 people. Only 5,600 are in federal prisons, while 40,000 are in state prisons, and 17,000 are in local jails. Our pretrial population, those not convicted of any crime, has more than tripled, according to Prison Policy Initiative. Taking a look at the whole Michigan criminal justice system, 253,000 residents are locked up or on probation, being supervised by the court system. Now, Michigan has made some progress in recent years, but not enough to make real effective changes to the system. To fix this system, we need to have a more multifaceted approach, addressing all the issues together to make a real impact. The first step is to create a better way to assess the flight risk of people picked up and allow low-level, low-risk individuals to be released on personal bond, which does not cost money. And we should also get rid of mandatory court fees that judges are currently unable to waive. After that, we need to talk to representatives and attorney generals, making sure that they know mandatory and suggested sentencing and needs to be adjusted and corrected to make the punishment proportional to the crime. Next, the most widespread and difficult to change is fixing the cultures of the justice system. Lastly, we need to make sure we are electing qualified and just prosecutors and taking our responsibility as jurors more seriously. Now, bail bonds were originally meant to ensure people show up to their trial, but it has become a giant for-profit industry. Low-income populations who cannot afford bail are stuck in jail for possibly years before the trial even starts. With this plan, the court could more easily assess who is a low-risk individual, and then they can release that individuals on personal bonds so that they can continue to support their family and contribute to society through working and other means. Imagine for a minute that you are a single parent and that you might have accumulated some tickets that you couldn't pay. And while on your way to work, you get pulled over. The cops see that you have a warrant out for your arrest for not paying the fines, and then they arrest you. So if you don't have the money to pose a bail, you're stuck in jail, which could lead you losing your job. And not to mention, it could add additional fines as well. Also, Child Protective Services might get involved or start investigating. This all creates more stress and puts the person in a place where they are even less likely to be able to pay their fines. It's an endless cycle that is demonstrated by the 10.6 million admissions to jails, despite the average daily population being only 612,000 nationally. Now, some may say if we let people go without using money bail, they will not show up to their trial, but it's actually been proven false. In the 60s, the Vera Institute of Justice calculated who is low risk and then tested if they would come to a trial without a cash bail. In an article written by John Button called "The Fight to Fix America's Broken Bail System," he states, after 3 years of trial, the project found that defendants released on non-financial conditions, based on risk scores, appeared for their day in court 3 times more frequently than similar defendants released on surety bail bonds. Clearly, removing the cash bail can work, and many other states have adapted this so far to their justice system with great results. It's time for Michigan to follow their lead. Another big part of the system which needs updating is the sentencing. There are people serving life in prison for non-violent crimes with no victim. There are a multitude of discrepancies throughout the suggested and mandatory sentencing given to judges. It has caused incarceration rates to skyrocket and has taken many judges' discretion to sentence an individual fairly. Many non-violent offenders in prisons who don't pose a threat to society wind up being stuck there for years. Some countries, states, and individual judges are advocating alternative sentencing. This works by letting low-level crimes and misdemeanors be paid through completing a designated program. These programs can include community service, mandatory counseling, and in some cases even a personal essay. It really depends on the individual and what the judge believes would help them become a better functioning, law-abiding member of society. The most difficult aspect to address is the change in culture has been taking place the last few decades throughout the justice system. Plea deals have been on the rise while juror trials have been dropping. This trend is extremely dangerous. It gives prosecutors unchecked power while limiting the right of the innocent and the jury. What tends to happen is a prosecutor tells a person they could take a plea deal of 1 year in prison, or they could go to a jury trial and take a gamble and face up to 15 years. Knowing that innocent people are wrongly convicted with only circumstantial evidence, many defendants are told by their lawyers just to plead guilty. In addition, guilty people are able to plead guilty and get very limited sentencing in violent crimes such as murder or rape. We need to change this so that finding the truth and bringing justice to those who deserve it while protecting the innocent becomes a standard. All of these suggestions mentioned here have a solid history of working in other states and countries. As we see more and more states and districts initiating reform, we also see the support growing. People at all levels of society are seeing the mistakes made the past 40 years, and they're demanding change. Prison reform finds bipartisan support in both the House of Representatives and the Senate currently. So what is it that you can do as a citizen? Well, you can be active in your local community and educate yourself on the privileges and responsibilities of being a citizen. Learn about what it means to be a responsible and ethical juror. If you are chosen as a juror, you could be the reason an innocent person is saved from years in prison. Another way to make an impact is to make your voice heard. You could contact your state or federal representatives by phone, email, writing a letter, or even through Twitter. It only takes a few minutes to help save someone from being wrongly incarcerated. Together as a society, we can end mass incarceration. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed my speech. Here's my audience again. Hi, everybody.
You did amazing.